Security cameras are absolutely everywhere. We see them on every corner. But do we really understand what's going on inside them? What makes one camera a hero that helps solve a crime, and another one, well, just a gadget that records a useless blurry blob? The answer, I promise you, is not on the box. So we're going to crack these things open and see what the pros really look for. And that brings us to the big mystery, the one that drives people crazy. How on earth can a cheap, basic camera sometimes give you a clearer picture at night than a super pricey, top-of-the-line 4K model? It sounds impossible, right? But the answer is actually pretty wild, and it has a lot more to do with simple physics than it does with fancy marketing. Okay, so first things first. Before we even get into all the techie stuff like lenses and sensors, the very first thing an expert looks at is the camera's body. And this has nothing to do with what looks cool. It's all about survival. You've got to pick the right shape for the job, one that can handle everything from a vandal with a stick to a spider who's decided your camera is the perfect place to build a new web. Now check this out. On the left, you've got the dome camera. And yeah, it looks tough. It's hard to break. But see that glass bubble? That's its fatal flaw. At night, the camera's own infrared lights can actually bounce off any little speck of dust or scratch on that bubble and blind itself. It's a huge problem. But the turret on the right, now that's a smart design. The lens and the IR lights are separate. No bubble, no reflection. It's why installers absolutely love these things. And then, of course, there's the classic bullet camera. This one's meant to be seen. It screams you're on camera, which can be a great deterrent. And because it's bigger, it can pack some serious IR illuminators to see really far in the dark. But the big downside, it's basically a spider magnet. And it's pretty easy for someone to just knock it and point it at the sky. All right, so we've picked out the camera's armor. Now let's talk about its eye, the lens. This is absolutely crucial because the lens is what determines if your camera is going to be a wide-eyed lookout, seeing an entire room at once, or more like a sniper, zeroed in on one very specific spot way down a hallway. And it all comes down to just one number, the focal length, measured in millimeters. All you have to remember is this simple rule. The lower the number, the wider the view. That's it. So a tiny number like 2.8 millimeters gives you that super wide, fisheye-like view, while a bigger number like 12 millimeters is like having a pair of binoculars strapped to your camera. And here's how that works in the real world. You want to cover a small office, see everything in it? You grab that wide 2.8 millimeter lens. You need to watch a big parking lot? Well, a more standard 4 or 6 millimeter lens is probably your best bet. But if your goal is to get a clear shot of a license plate from far away or see all the way down a long corridor, you're going to need that zoomed-in telephoto power of a 12 millimeter lens or higher. So we've got the body, we've got the lens. But now we get to the real heart of the matter. We're talking about the image sensor. This is the little chip inside that acts like the camera's retina. It's the part that actually sees the light. And this, right here, is the secret to solving that whole 4K mystery we started with. So the image sensor is this electronic chip. And here is the #1 secret that most people don't know. Its physical size is way, way more important than how many megapixels it has. It's measured in these weird fractions of an inch, like 1/3 inch or 1/1.8 inch. And yeah, I know, it's kind of backwards, but the smaller the number on the bottom of that fraction, the bigger the sensor actually is. You know, the absolute best way to think about this is with a really simple analogy. Just imagine that the sensor is a bucket. And light, well, light is just rain falling from the sky. To get a good, clear picture, especially when it's dark, your goal is to catch as much rain as you possibly can. So a smaller sensor, let's say a 1/2.8 inch, is like a small bucket. But a larger sensor, like a 1/1.8 inch, is a much wider bucket. It just has a bigger surface area. So naturally, it's going to catch a whole lot more of that rain, or light, in the same amount of time. It's just simple geometry.
So let's think about this. When it's dark out and there's not much light, not much rain falling, which bucket are you going to bet on to fill up? The big one or the small one? Of course, you're going to choose the wider bucket every single time. And that one simple idea, it changes everything about how you should look at cameras.
And this, my friends, is where we completely bust the myth of 4K. We've all been trained to think that more pixels, more resolution is always better. But when the sun goes down, all those extra pixels can actually become your single worst enemy. Here's the physics of it. A 4K image has about 8 million pixels. Now imagine trying to cram 8 million pixels onto a small sensor. What happens? Each individual pixel has to be incredibly tiny. So instead of one big bucket trying to catch the rain, you now have 8 million microscopic thimbles. And those tiny little thimbles, they just can't capture enough light to make a decent picture. And you can see the result right here. On the left, you've got a 2-megapixel camera, which is standard 1080p. Its pixels are relatively big and fat, so they're great at soaking up light. Awesome night vision. But now take that exact same size sensor and cram 8 million pixels on it to get 4K, and look what happens. The performance just falls off a cliff. You get a dark, grainy, and pretty much useless image. So here's the bottom line, the rule that every professional installer lives by. A 4K camera will often look worse at night than a good old 1080p camera. You get this incredibly sharp, detailed image during the bright, sunny day, and then you get a noisy, unusable mess the moment you actually need to see who's creeping around in the dark. So, if you want to think like a pro from now on, just use this simple 3-step checklist. Step 1, pick a camera body that's tough enough for its location. Step 2, match the lens to exactly what you need to see. And step 3, the big one we learned today, if you need to see in the dark, always prioritize a bigger sensor over a higher resolution. So, the next time you see a security camera mounted on a wall, what are you going to think about? Are you just going to see the brand name or the 4K sticker on the side? Or are you going to look closer and wonder, does it have the right body, the right lens, and most importantly, the right sensor to actually do its job when it counts the most? Are you going to look for the pixels or the purpose?